Hello, everyone.
Hi there, welcome. If everyone, as you come in, if you want to drop where you are in the chat, that's our little tradition. We love seeing people from all over the place that come to these events.
Yeah, where are you coming from? Yeah. Just the city name, country name, and we'll be very pleased to see that.
Wow.
Oh, Bangkok, wonderful.
Bangkok. I'll add mine.
Madrid, yeah, Karen
That's me.
is from here. Yeah, we've got Athens, Theodora, thank you very much. Okay. And we're going to see some very lovely cities, countries popping up here in the chat. Thank you very much for joining us. We know you've all got very busy schedules. Kelsey, Tbilisi, lovely, thank you. And in case some of you registered but could not join, we've got the recording. It will be up on our YouTube channel as always. Brazil, wonderful, fantastic. Okay, France, center of France, very good, thank you. Istanbul, Turkey, lovely. We've got a very international crowd today, and I know we've got someone joining from Japan just now, so that's lovely. Atlanta,
Istanbul, welcome. Wow. Also Turkey.
Okay, we're admitting more people.
Beautiful.
What time is it in Atlanta?
In Atlanta, it is 11:03 a.m. So we are pre-lunch.
Right. Right.
Yes.
And it's a different state of mind than we are at 5 o'clock.
Right. Yes. On a Thursday, no less.
Same here. Right. Okay. So welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's a weekday. It's 5 p.m. here in Central Europe and the mainland Europe. And I'm sure that you're very excited to listen to this one. I think it's a very relevant topic, as usual, in our Expert 2023 series, which tries to showcase all the different elements, methodologies, techniques, ideas that channel into what makes language coaching a fantastic and very vibrant discipline of today. And please join us at ILCA to spread the word about language coaching. And if we can go to the next slide, and very slowly we're going to move into the topic of today. But before that, we'd like to talk just a little bit about our little baby here, which is the second language coaching conference, International Language Coaching Conference, taking place in a couple of weeks. So if you haven't got a ticket yet, then we really recommend purchasing it before they all are taken and you cannot join, because there will be so many people joining us. And it's lovely to know that we're getting so much support from all over the world with people joining, and it's a very exciting thing. Carrie, what do you want to say about the conference? We talked about it on our LinkedIn Live the other day.
Yeah, I want to say come to the conference. It's in Paris, amazing location and venue. The theme is transformation, and it hits on all parts of professional, personal transformation. Now more than ever, we're really addressing these like non-traditional approaches, like incorporating mindfulness and nature and just so many different things. So great networking opportunity, socializing opportunity, and most of all, a professional development opportunity. We really feel that it's a one-of-a-kind conference right now that is focused on language coaching and helping, experienced teachers and coaches to deepen their skills in this area. So please do join us. It's our second year running. Last year was just one great big family vibe, if you will. We really came out of it moving forward together, and we would love to meet all of you in person and go through this together. So please do join us. ilkaglobal.com, we'll drop it in the chat. That's where you can register. And as Gabriella said, we've got a limited capacity. Tickets will sell out. Our experience is we're almost 4 weeks out from the conference date, and this is when there's like floods of people that begin buying up the tickets. And yeah, so please do come.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so looking forward to seeing you in person, but definitely now live on this online event. I'd like to introduce our speaker today, Karen Curry, who is joining us from the lovely sunny city of Madrid. And she recently completed a master's in personalized teaching methods, which I'd be curious to find out what that is about, actually. I'd give her now the microphone, the virtual microphone, and if you could continue saying a few words about yourself, and then we'll slowly drift into the topic of emotional intelligence in the classroom. Okay, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Karen.
Hello, everybody. My name is Karen, and I'm an English language teacher here in Madrid, Spain. I've been here for 19 years, but I'm originally from Oregon, from the United States. As you see the photos down there with I went to the University of Oregon. But I've worked in Spain for 19 years, and I've taught English in academies and companies and in schools. And currently I am freelancing as an ELT teacher and teacher trainer. And what brings me here today is really what Gabriela said, is that I just finished this teaching methods of personalized education. And when I came up at the end, you have to choose a final project. What do you want to research? What do you want to do with all of this learning that you have accumulated? And one of the options was emotional intelligence. And I said, that's what I want to do. That's what I need. I need it for me, and I need it for my students, and I need it for my children. I'm also a mother. I have one teenage boy and one tween girl. So emotions are running wild in my house. And if we have a better understanding of our own emotional intelligence, then we can model that, and we can teach that to our students and to our children, if you have children. Okay, so let's get to it. My main objectives, as teaching, we always have to have our objectives ready. My objectives are to help you better understand emotional intelligence, provide you with some techniques and strategies, some tips and things that you can do, and of course, inspire you to keep learning. I'm a lifelong learner. I'm always looking for new methodologies, new ways to improve my teaching. And well, that was my latest experience was with this master's, and it was a very good experience. So I recommend everybody to keep developing themselves. And so we're going to start with to see what you guys know about emotional intelligence. And so for you, what does it mean to be emotionally intelligent? I'm going to put the link in the chat. All you have to do is click on the link, and it should pop up a Mentimeter, which we're going to make a word cloud. And we're going to, let me switch screens. See, you just have to enter 3 qualities or characteristics that you associate with an emotionally intelligent person. So think of someone you know, what qualities do they exude? What qualities do they give off to others? Good, they're coming in. I love this tool, Mentimeter, because it's a visual tool, isn't it? It's great for mind maps and things like that. Very good. Wow. Fantastic. Empathy, you see that the more often people put, let's see, how would I explain that? The higher frequency that it's registering the same word again and again. So empathy would be it. So the bigger the word, the more often people are putting it in, right? So, or choosing those words. So we have empathy was the big word, was the most important one. Good. Calm. Oh, that's a good one. Empathetic. Patient. Good. Good, but there's lots of interesting things here, right? Those are all qualities that we want to have, right? There's usually those are the qualities you see in great leaders or see in our coaches and in our teachers, our great ones, like Gabriela. Sensitivity. Oh, great. They keep coming in. Controlling emotions, confidence, care. Good. I don't know if everybody's done it. Give it a couple more seconds to see if anybody else. Deep breather. That's what I need to do right now. Deep breaths. Okay, so great. I'm going to leave that open so you can keep adding more words in as it goes. If you want to go back to it, you want to look at it, it will be there. Okay, I'm going to leave that open because calmness, motivation, social skills. Wow, lots of good ones. So you guys know quite a lot. Let's switch back though, and all right, I switch back out of that. Very good. You guys know a lot. But what is emotional intelligence? What is the definition? So EI, or emotional intelligence, is defined as the ability to regulate and understand feelings to guide behaviors and thoughts. So now we are all familiar with the typical IQ testing, but however, there are aspects that intelligent tests don't account for, like relating to others, dealing with frustration, adapting quickly, empathizing with others. And as I said, those are the skills that we want our great leaders to have, we want our teachers to have. And well, it's also what employees are looking for. Nowadays, we have AI that has all the knowledge and the technical expertise. So what do we offer an employer if we don't have emotional intelligence? Okay, so we all need to work on our EQ, which is what they call, the measurement of our ability to have our ability to express and regulate our feelings to guide our behaviors and thoughts. So I agree with Goleman, as he says here, as much as 80% of adult success comes from EQ. Okay, and in fact, some other authors have said 90% or 90%. This is what we all should be concerned about, or why we should be concerned about developing it. And does anybody know where does the term emotional intelligence come from? Who coined that term? We have this is basically psychologists that have contributed along the years to what we know about emotional intelligence. We have David Wechsler, who worked since the 1940s about really changing our way of thinking of IQ, that there are other aspects, not just one global intelligence. And there's Howard Gardner, who developed his multiple intelligences theory. There's John Mayer and Peter Salovey, who developed the 4-branch model. And we have Daniel Goleman's book, very famous, well-known book, called the same name, Emotional Intelligence. So put in the chat, who do you think who is brave enough to take a guess? Maybe who do you think coined the term, the father of the term emotional intelligence? Anybody? Gardner, someone says. Mike says. Goleman. Howard Gardner. Mayer and Salovey. Yvette says. Anybody else? Anybody else? Anybody else brave? Feeling brave and confident? Well, in fact, Yvette, Einstein. Wow. Someone before Wechsler. Okay. Well, I will give you the answer. The answer is Peter Salovey and John Mayer and Peter Salovey. These are two names that not many people are familiar with. We are familiar with Gardner, we're familiar with Goleman, but who is this John Mayer and Peter Salovey? And they were the first ones. They published an article in 1990 with the first ones to coin that term, emotional intelligence. And it's really when they were they were looking for a definition to how to explain this other intelligence that we're not accounting for. And so they named it emotional intelligence. And later down the line in 1997, they came out with the 4-branch model, and it includes 4 steps: emotional perception, facilitation of thought, emotional understanding, and emotional management. Now, facilitation of thought, that always gets me because this model for me was always a little bit vague. I had to read it over and over and over again. Facilitation of thought is basically, well, we'll start from the beginning. Emotional perception is perceiving the emotion, identifying it in others and in ourselves. And facilitation of thought is bringing it into the thought process. So not just feeling it in our bodies, but making it a thought. Like, what am I thinking about that emotion? And so it's that process of moving it into thought. Emotional understanding is how it affects us. And then emotional management, how to deal with it, how to deal with those emotions. So yeah, I still recommend Daniel Goleman's book because he gives a very comprehensive view of the past and the present. Even though it's 1995, there are still there's still a lot of good information there. And he talks a lot about he gives recognition to Gardner and to John Mayer and Peter Salovey. But anyway, it's interesting now that mostly we know about the author Daniel Goleman, and we know about Howard Gardner, but we haven't heard too much about John Mayer and Peter Salovey. And they're still researching, they're still coming out with new models and new ways of seeing, or new ways of understanding emotional intelligence. Recently, they published something and they've included 24 attributes. So there's the model, and then there's skills. Basically, it comes down to skills that you need to develop. So I recommend getting to the root of where emotional intelligence comes from, and keep learning in that, and look and get interested in the research. I guess it's very interesting. Okay, so social emotional well-being is catching on in education, that we have the input from these psychologists that have given us, but how are we adapting, or how are we applying that into an educational context? CASEL, maybe people in America are more familiar with this. This is an organization from the United States. It's called the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. And they're interested in developing social emotional learning in schools. And not only what's fascinating, or what's great about this framework is that it's not only about it's not only about the students that are developing their emotional intelligence, but they have in mind the teachers, the school environment, and also communities, the whole community. So I think it's a very, very interesting perspective, and a framework that many schools could use to apply. There's a lot of other ones, of course. There's lots of other programs, like I have listed over here. Let me see if I can see it. We've got, I mentioned the IB schools, which really you can see where emotional intelligence is. They take it into consideration in their learner profile. So write that down if you want to work on this in your classroom. There's a lot of information on Pinterest and ways to develop this learner profile, which includes some emotional intelligence. There's also the Happy Classrooms in UNESCO and other programs, many other programs. I would name some that are more locally, but maybe you wouldn't recognize them in Spanish. They're called, for example, Aulas Felices, if you speak Spanish. Aulas Felices, it's Happy Classrooms, really. It's very similar to the UNESCO program. And it's based on positive psychology and including mindfulness in the educational context. So social emotional well-being is catching on. That's, the way we have taken the contributions of psychology and neuroscience, and we have to find a way, our new frameworks to adapt education to reflect this. There was another interesting fact.
Hi.
Oh, hello. So CASEL has been working since the 1990s, and you can also read a lot about the positive impacts that they're having, because they have done a lot of research. They've had time to see the evolution of how this has affected the schools, how's it affected students in the long run. It's not a new program, it's been around for a long time. So anyway, you can also continue researching about that, because it's amazing what they're doing, their work. Okay, so getting back to my research. I focused on Howard Gardner and Daniel Goleman, and I really wanted to kind of get to the skills, like how to develop this. Okay, I understand what emotional intelligence is, but how is it that I can list it as an objective in my curriculum, or how can I bring it to the classroom and start working on these skills? Which activities do I choose? So these two models, really, these two frameworks, these two authors really are the ones that helped me understand better what is interpersonal intelligence versus intrapersonal intelligence. In our formal education, we spend most of our time looking outside, learning about the outside world, and we don't give that much time or importance to what's going on in our interior world. So that's what I focus my activities on in my project. I try to focus it on the intrapersonal intelligence. And also because interpersonal intelligence in the school environment, we're constantly working on social skills. And I feel like that's something that we're more aware of, but we're not so much aware of the intrapersonal, the things like what's happening inside of us and how it affects our learning or how it affects our motivation. And so that's what we're going to be looking at today. Those three topics: self-awareness, self-regulation, and self-motivation. So, as I said before, self-awareness is our ability to look inside ourselves and be aware of our strengths, our personal qualities, our goals, also the skills related to emotions and attentions, and also really being aware of beliefs that start forming. Over time, we start forming beliefs about ourselves. For example, I mean, I used to think when I first started out in primary school, I thought, I think I'm coming off as a total stress head, like a stress case. Everything's chaotic in the classroom. I must be totally look out of control. But as I spoke to my colleagues, they told me, how do you stay so calm? How do you stay so patient with the young learners? And I thought, really? In my head, and what I believed was that was not what I was getting off. So I think it's important to be aware of ourselves, but also ask others for feedback and see, how do you see me? I think of myself this way. Do you agree? And sometimes you find that you're surprised. You're positively surprised that people can point out different strengths that you've never thought of. So anyway, this is 3 Steps to Self-Awareness and Transformation by Chernoff and Rodriguez. And there's another important part about being more self-aware also builds our self-esteem. The author Brendan wrote a book about self-esteem. And what I took away from that was I grabbed onto how do we build self-esteem in our learners. We know self-esteem is so important for especially in the English language. I feel like if you're not sure of yourself, if you're not confident, it's much harder for you to participate in class and really learn, because you need to practice to learn. So yeah, so those 3 pillars of self-esteem also identify awareness of emotions, skills, and desires as a pillar to building self-esteem. So when we're building self-awareness, we're also building self-esteem in our learners or our clients. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty. How can we develop self-awareness in the classroom? We have got lots of ideas. There's so many ideas out there. These are just a few that I find that are productive for me, have worked for me, and I use them again and again. The personal coat of arms, it's a shield that you, so students, you can adapt this to young students or to older students, and it really develops or works on what are your interests, what are your values, what are you good at, and what are your goals. And you can even give yourself a motto, and it's great because it gives learners of all ages usually like it, and you can express yourself through images or through words. You can do only words or you can do only images. With young learners, obviously you would use just drawings, pictures, but as they get older, you can incorporate words or slogans for your life. And I like that it's a shield, because it's the idea that the shield can protect us from any negativity or anything that's happening that's outside in the outside world. I have my shield. I can put up my shield to block it. So I really like that one. Anything that is going to check in with your students' emotional state of mind is going to help them be more self-aware, especially teenagers. You need to see that our emotions fluctuate every day. Some days we're going to be angry, some days we're going to be sad, and that's normal. We need to normalize that. So it's also a very popular trending topic. If you are on TikTok, you can find lots of mood trackers and things like this. So these are useful for teenagers, young adults, or even ourselves, adults. And of course, I'm a very big fan of journal writing. As an English teacher, we need to improve our writing, of course. It's one of the important skills. So having a notebook that's your journal and writing in it, maybe you can't write in it every day, but it would be nice. It would be nice if we could write every day in our journal, but maybe 5 minutes at the end of class, or maybe, 5 minutes I could give. That's what I did sometimes with a notebook. At the back of my notebook, a few pages in the back would be dedicated to reflections, maybe 5 or 6, 10, depends on how much space you want to give to it. But just to answer one question at the end of the day, to reflect on how they feel, what they learned. It could be, there are a lot of different questions you could work on. What strengths did you use today? What challenges did you overcome? What did you learn today? So if you could do a daily reflection, or once in a while pull out the notebook and say, okay, every Friday we're going to reflect on what we learned during this week. And it gives them a time. You just have to give time and space for them to develop self-awareness and introspection. Okay, so what else? This is a really great one. I like this because it's a very good visual tool to just keep on the wall that you could use to develop better emotional granularity. This term was coined by Lisa Feldman Barrett. Is that correct? Yes, Lisa Feldman Barrett. And she developed this wheel to help us be more precise about what we're feeling. Oftentimes in class, we have students say, you say, how are you feeling? And they say, happy, sad, and you get the same, happy, sad. But if you can work on and developing why you feel happy and start developing more precision on how you express your emotions, you're going to be better at communicating your emotions, and that allows you to free yourself from them, and you'll be better prepared to confront difficulties and take control of your life. We don't want our emotions to control us. We want to be able to control our emotions. So this has lots of positive benefits, positive impacts. It increases self-esteem, and it diminishes or prevents destructive behavior. That's why most people go to the psychologist, right? You go to the psychologist to talk about your feelings. So it's to get it off your chest, to get it out. Getting it out there frees you from it and allows you to face your difficulties or face your day-to-day. So I recommend that one as well. Other ways to develop emotional perception and understanding are thinking routines and role plays. Sorry, I use this thinking routine. It looks, it feels, it sounds like, after showing maybe a video about stress, or how stress affects us at school, or what does anxiety look like, or even just an image that provokes an emotion. Then we could take out a visual thinking routine like this one and work on it together, or work on it individually. What it looks like, what it feels like, and what it sounds like. What things do you say when you're stressed? What things do you do? Okay, how does it feel inside you? And that, as I said, thinking routines and role plays help students identify and understand emotions in others, which that increases our empathy of understanding others' emotions and being respectful towards others. So in every classroom, we always need to work on these kinds of things. And in the language classroom, we're lucky because we can do role plays, we can do theater to develop language. And there's a lot of things you can do just working on body language. This activity is where you have a card and you have to act like you're annoyed, and the rest of the classroom has to guess what you're feeling. And so, well, this is fantastic because the learners having to express themselves, which is difficult. There are people who have a very big difficulty. I show a lot of emotion through my face, I know, but others don't. And so it's important to connect that idea of, okay, I have an emotion. What is my face showing? What is my body showing? So body language is also so important to work on, and we can do that in the language classroom. Okay, my favorite moment of the day, to take a minute to self-evaluate or just reflect on this experience so far. How are you feeling? You can tell me, or you can write it down, or you can think it to yourself, but take a minute and just think about how you are feeling in this moment. Are you tired? Are you stressed? Are you thinking about other things? Are you distracted? How difficult is it for you to maintain your attention from a 1 to 10? Rate yourself. And what helps you concentrate during a presentation? Maybe you're counting how many times I say or I don't know. What helps you? Anything, right? Or maybe you're taking notes, or maybe you are looking at the pictures. But take a minute and think about that. What helps you concentrate and keep your attention on what you're doing, listening right now. Okay. All right. Did anybody share? Hopeful? Oh, good. 4, drawing doodles on paper. Okay. My concentration is partly on how I can use specifics, motivated, relieved. Okay, good. Maybe I'm talking too fast and you're frustrated. It's okay. You can watch it again in the recording. Attention 7, very good. Keeping your attention. Taking notes. Good. Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. Pictures. Yes. That was what I did that a lot in my master's. When I got tired of taking notes and I would just take a shot to remember something to that's a tool, great way. Visual aids. Yes. Yes. Drawing actually is fantastic because it allows you to concentrate. A lot of people need that. They need to be drawing in order to concentrate. We can let our students draw. It's okay if they're listening. Okay, great. So keep going. All right, so step 1, we talked about that. Step 1 was, what was it? Step 1, self-awareness. Self-awareness, that's step 2, self-regulation. Self-regulation, what is it? It's our ability to manage our emotions, both positive and negative, and it's key for our well-being and our success. So if we are able to recognize feeling that we have right now, for example, if we're having a negative emotion and we know ourselves well enough to know what can change that, what can make us happy, what can make us calmer. And we can use that information to help us decide on which strategy will help us to move from one mental state to another. So if we were in a negative mental state, what can we do to make ourselves feel better? And of course, then act on it. Oops. There we are. The process model of emotional and self-regulation is in fact better. To explain it, the first step is to identify the emotion that we're feeling, and then we decide, do we need to regulate it or not? If we're calm or happy, then obviously we don't need to regulate it. We are enjoying the moment. But maybe if we are so happy that we can't concentrate and we have to study, then maybe we have to calm ourselves down instead of maybe happy, maybe excited. If we were very excited, we need to calm ourselves down in order to concentrate. The second one is selection. So having a toolkit or resources, you need to have lots of options of how to be really to be aware of lots of different coping strategies and then being aware of what works for you. And then finally, is putting into action, okay? Taking the step to implement the strategy, the coping strategy that you have decided to apply. I have to give a little example of this because it's kind of funny and it's a personal anecdote. That my father, every day, every morning, he walks outside. He'll usually have a cup of coffee, and then he'll go outside. First thing he does every morning. He goes outside and he's outside for 2 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. He takes a short walk. And for so many years, I would look out and wonder, what is he doing? He's so weird. He's so weird. Why does he always do that? But over time, I realized that in fact, when we had any kind of moment of conflict, or if we were going to have an argument, we were in the middle of an argument, he would basically just walk outside. He would need to go take a break and collect himself. Maybe he needed to be in touch with nature, or that was what calmed him. So in fact, he was self-regulating, right? He was managing his emotions. I think in the morning, the morning was to start the day off well, not to start off in a good way, to be more motivated. That was what he needed, and so he connected the ideas that going outside made him happy, made him relax. And so when he got into conflict or an argument, he would go outside. So it was very frustrating for me because I'm here, I want to finish my argument, I want to prove my point, but he would go outside and he would come back in, and then he would be more calm and collected and be able to continue the conversation in a better way. So I think I never thought of him as an emotionally intelligent person, but I think he is. He really was able to knowing himself what works for him. And so it really is a personal process that you have to go through and understanding your own emotions and what works for you to help you to change from a negative state to a positive state. And mine is music and dancing. So, but everyone has different things. But in the classroom, how can we help students regulate? Well, these are some visuals that really help, because you can leave them on the wall, or you can print it out as a worksheet, work on it, and work on, today we're going to talk about stress. And what do I think when I'm stressed? What do I feel? And how does that affect my actions? So anything that is really connecting the processes between our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions is going to help people self-regulate. This is called the cognitive behavior triangle. Sorry, the cognitive behavior triangle by Friedman. That one is very useful. And of course, this little turtle, I use this one for my younger learners, Tucker the turtle. It's fantastic. If a child is losing control and starting to have problems with other people, other students in the classroom, I would teach them to go over to Turtle and to remember that Tucker Turtle tells you that you need to stop, tuck into your shell, take a few deep breaths, and then you can better think of a solution before you react. So it actually really works. It's something that you have to teach, you have to keep enforcing, but it's a good visual reminder. And I would say the Tucker Turtle works for everybody, but it's a mental image of the turtle going into the shell. I think it does help. And back to my thinking routines, I think anytime you develop thinking processes and teach them that there's a strategy, or there's steps, different ways to think, it's going to help them to connect their thoughts with their emotions, and really just get into deeper thinking processes. So those are just a few visual thinking postures. I'm sure there's many, many more. Okay, what else? There's lots of other ways to regulate in the classroom, self-regulate. I've used these. These are some that I like. So I use current events to talk about regulating emotions. When you see a tennis player who breaks the tennis racket, or in this case, Will Smith slapping Chris Rock at the Grammys, wasn't it? I think it was the Grammys. It's people are talking about it, so use it, and it's a moment to talk about, was that the right way to regulate emotions? Like, what was going through his head? What was he feeling? Why was he feeling that way? And how could have he done things better? How could have he acted differently? What tools would you have used if you were in that? What strategies would you have used if you were in that situation? And so that's a good one. And also giving opportunities. Don't be afraid to use art and music in the classroom, because nature, getting outside, those things usually teaching our students to relax has so many benefits. Because imagine they have an exam week, and well, my class, I already did my exam, so I haven't got much to do today. Well, we're going to color some mandalas, or we're going to do a social an activity where you can socialize and be kind of just relaxed. You can listen to music. It changes you're teaching them, you're giving them an opportunity to practice coping strategies. And many students are very stressed about the exams, and they're unable to do well in exams because of those emotions. So you would be, not only teaching them strategies, but being very helpful for other subjects. Coloring mandalas, I use that one because it's trending topic and it's popular right now, but you can adapt it. Gratitude journals are fantastic. They say it's impossible to be negative if you are feeling thankful. So any questions that can help them think about what's good in life is going to help their emotional well-being. Teenagers especially are very negative in general. So it's because their brains are changing and they're developing so quickly, they are unable to process these emotions. And of course, as teachers, we need to be aware of innovative and active methodologies, because they are taking into consideration all of those skills, like collaborating with others, participating, including games. Those are all going to improve their feelings, good feelings in the classroom. Okay, so what happened? Hit something. Step 3. Okay, what was step 1? Step 1 was self-awareness, right? And step 2 was self-regulation. Good. I see people mouthing it. And step 3 is self-motivation. Now that's where coaches come in, right? We always need them to motivate us. But what we really need to have in mind is that our emotional regulation is key. If we are in a negative state of mind, we have to keep in mind how our client or our learners are feeling, because if they're stressed or they're depressed or they're anxious, their concentration is going to be blocked. They're not going to remember what you told them. They're not going to be able to think clearly, and you also have lower motivation and lower academic results. Whereas if you're feeling good and you're able to tap into those calm and happy feelings, then you have greater mental flexibility, creativity, problem resolution, and intrinsic motivation. And what else? What else did I want to tell you here? So as you see my little brain up here, the prefrontal cortex is where all this is happening. Now, I'm not a neuroscience scientist, and that part I had to read again and again and again, but it is very interesting to know, teaching for the brain. Teaching for the brain means that we're including emotional and education. And so if we are teaching emotional regulation, we're also able to tap into and improve goal setting, planning, and organization, those executive functions. That's a topic that my pending topic to research is executive functions and how to help our students improve their functioning. So just keep in mind, if you want to improve motivation, just keep in mind that we need to first learn, we need to regulate negative emotions and promote positive ones. And how do we do that in the classroom? Of course, when you say, do you want to play a game? Everybody's like, yes, yes, and the crowd goes wild. So we're going to play a game if we have time. See, how's the time going? I'm going, okay, yeah, okay. So we should use this science that they've in neuroscience and cognitive scientists have explained the reward system works in education and activating the whole brain and improving motivation and mental clarity. So without too much, I'm going to go quickly to, I'm going to go out for a second, and I'm going to open my game, see if I can, to see how you are learning. We're going to do a quiz, so get ready. Look at your notes. I'm going to put a link in the chat, and I will also put in the chat, 1 second. Okay, that is the link to the chat, and the code is, here you go. So you should be able to open a game and put in the code to access the game. Let me share my screen again. Good, we're entering, good. No technical difficulties. Yes. Okay. So I hope that you guys all get 100%. Let's see. I know I went really quickly over a lot of things, but it's also good to know what you do know and what you don't know. So focus on the positive. Don't focus on what you don't know. Well, of course, you have to improve that, right? So you have to go back over and learn what you didn't learn, but walk away with something. Walk away with, see how we do. Okay, we've got 13 people in. Anybody having difficulties getting in? Yay. Someone found the emojis. Yes. So there's so many different apps out there now for games. Quizzes is just the one I'm comfortable with, but there's Kahoot. There's so many. Booklet is a new one for me. Booklet. So many out there. Okay, we have 17. Anybody else wanting to join? I recommend also to make a list of, I'm doing this now, I'm making a list of all the websites that we use for playing, because it's easy to forget I learned a lot of, had a lot of resources during the master's, list of good places to go for games and things. And it's funny how so quickly we forget. Maybe I stuck with 3 that I'm comfortable with, but I would totally recommend is as you're researching, like collect all of that knowledge, collect and make a list of your favorite websites to play games. Okay, because you can't always use the same. Socrative is also very good. We use that a lot. Remember, Yvette, one of my colleagues is here. Socrative is a good one. Okay, we're ready? Shall we start? What do you say? Okay, I have to move this toolbar. Here we go. We're going to start. I'm going to turn off the sound because it's kind of noisy. All right, it's very quiet. I'll let you guys work on your own. Medium, very good. Medium is on fire. Watch out, Jude is coming up. Bunny is on the scene. He's typing up. I love the names that you have given yourselves. Bunny's still in the lead. Come on, guys. Olga's close behind. Okay, putting up. Oh, Miriam just passed to first place. Let's see who's going to win. Penelope is on fire. Okay, we have to wait for, I won't announce some people have finished, but let's let everybody finish. Not too bad so far, 62%. It's not bad, not bad. Tapping. And also click to show only top 5 if you want. Top 5 here. Okay, I wonder if they're gonna see if we have some people that didn't finish, but we can get rid of. Oh. Really give us the results at the end. See, maybe everybody has to finish. I don't know if everybody has to finish or not. That's okay. We can see who we can give the. Mika, are you still going? Looks like Mika's still going. Give a little bit more time for her to finish. Hey, there you go, Mika. Oh, she jumped. This is like Eurovision, no? To watch to watch how the scores start to, as the points come in, you can watch the scores go to top. Rita Baker, yay! Round of applause. Rita Baker wins with 4,900 points. I think that everybody has to finish in order for it to, usually it pops up with first place, second place, third place, but I've never experienced that not everybody has finished, so I'll have to experiment with that a little bit more. But number 1, first place, Rita Baker. Second place, Penelope. Third place, Bunny. Fourth place, Miriam Rasan. Sorry if I'm butchering your names. And fourth is Theodora. Very good. Well done. I'm impressed. So anyway, how did you feel during this experiment? Did you feel good? Did you feel good? Anybody? I think that really play-based learning is definitely the future. If any of you have kids, they're doing a lot more using technology in the classroom and using this. It's one technique to personalize the classroom. Okay, let me go back to the PowerPoint. I think I had opened it. Sorry. Anyway, so back to this little presentation I've got here. We know that playing games is one of the best ways to motivate our students and create positive emotions, and really use the reward system, use the neuroscience that's backing what we're doing in the classroom. When people ask, a lot of parents come to teachers and really doubt, like, are they really learning anything if you're playing games in class? Yes, and you can explain why. That the neuroscientists and cognitive scientists explain that, in fact, we are improving learning when we play a game. There's many ways to do that. And I know there's a lot of other ways you can do with younger kids. I use Class Dojo to implement some kind of reward system, external rewards. But what's really interesting to me is intrinsic motivation. Another very important thing, this is the last big content, well, I have 2 more slides with a lot of content, but is that we have to evaluate differently. So many times I have students saying things like, I don't know anything, I'm going to fail. They have a very negative self-talk. This happens in my house. And I really try to help them understand that if you have learned a lot, what do you know? What did you get right? And so we need to, as teachers and as coaches, we need to give feedback on strengths and weaknesses. The way to help me remember this is no, but yes. So you don't know this 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, but you did get 0.4 right. So good job. You know something, and that helps them walk away with more positive outlook and more motivation, because they know that they have somewhere to start at. They're starting somewhere, and they know they have a long ways to go, but what do they know? And that encourages them and motivates them. So celebrate successes, evaluate emotional competences. If we want to give importance to emotional competences, we should be evaluating them. Otherwise, they won't take them seriously. So add that onto one of the things that you're evaluating, not only the content, but also their emotional competences. What else? We can also teach them how we evaluate, and let them evaluate themselves, let them evaluate their peers, give them a checklist, give them a rubric, then they know what they need to know. It seems obvious, but so many times my kids come home and they don't know what's on the test, and it should be known. We should know what you're being evaluated on. So I have a checklist, and I can say, I know this, and then also what you don't know. It's also important you could do portfolios at the end of the year. So many students say, if you ask them, what did you learn this year? And they're like, nothing, I didn't learn anything. Really? So if we look back in your portfolio that you created with all of your fantastic work, we can show them. We have a proof of how they have progressed and what they have learned. And finally, all of these techniques, Gabriela said at the beginning, she wanted to know more about what it is personalized education, teaching methods for personalized education. Personalized education is in basically innovative methodologies that improve learner well-being, and it helps us address the needs of every student in the classroom. Of course, it doesn't mean that I'm going to have a personalized plan for every child in my class, because it's impossible. And that was very frustrating to me. So I wanted to learn methodologies, ways that I can change the way I teach to reach and meet the needs of every student in my classroom. So I would break this down into 4, well, there's probably more, but those are the 4 most important for me. Improve learner engagement with play-based learning. Use meaningful activities. Is it meaningful to them? Is it interesting to them? Anything that's social, a social activity is going to be meaningful. So collaborative and cooperative, task-based and project-based learning is a fantastic way to start. Let students take the lead, allowing them to choose what they do their project on. It's a good idea. Ask them what their opinion is on things. So take surveys and polls to see what they know and what they want to know. And finally, we have to change how we give feedback. It's so important for motivation and emotional well-being for our learners. So that's about it. So thank you so much for listening. I would encourage you, the last thing, to develop your own emotional intelligence. There's lots of tools out there. There's free toolkits. This one I know is from Cell. Educator Cell is it's a free toolkit to help you examine your identity, explore emotions, cultivate compassion, curiosity, orient towards optimism, and establish balance and boundaries in the classroom as teachers. Also, this one in Australia, BU Beyond Blue. This is an organization based in Australia that is very concerned about teachers' well-being. So if you're interested in developing more your emotional intelligence, please get in touch with me or follow me on LinkedIn. I like to share lots of things about emotional intelligence, or drop me a message in my email, karen@englishinmadrid.com. So that is it for me. How did I do?
You're getting some very positive feedback in the chat if you want to check, and Rita, very nice feedback, beautifully balanced and presented webinar. Many thanks. So that's a very nice compliment. Thank you very much. And Rena wrote that she had a webinar on a similar subject with the British Council, and she wanted to learn more. So this was the chance here. So we're very grateful for everyone being here. All right, okay, Lisa, you'll be able to watch the recording, so no problem. Thank you all very much. And we do have maybe 2 or 3 minutes for Q&A, and I picked up on 1 or 2 of the questions that we had here. So yeah, and do join us in France, but I'd love to jump to the to the Q&A because I know we're running out.
And just before we go into Q&A, sorry, just before we go into Q&A, for the rest of you that aren't asking questions, please do tell us what drew you to this webinar, just in your own words in the chat. That'd be very helpful as well. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Right. Okay. So one of the questions was, can you give us more activity on the, the mood trackers, the self-awareness area, or any resources perhaps that you could put in here, or just I don't know, think about. I know on the spot this is a bit difficult, but if you've got any other ideas for that.
Well, I think that we do a lot as language teachers at the beginning of the course of getting to know our students. Usually we have a lot of resources that we use for students to communicate to us about themselves, right? Get to know you kinds of questions. So I would encourage, I guess, to keep using those kinds of things throughout term, not only at the beginning, but check in with them and seeing, has that changed? Have your strengths changed? Have your interests changed? And anything that really checks in with them emotionally. So the mood trackers are very good. Let me think about, for teenagers, also giving them a one-on-one time. So inviting them to have like a get to know you session, sort of like an interview where you would sit down with them one-to-one and talk to them about themselves, see how they're doing. So anything that's checking in with them emotionally and letting them express their emotions is really helpful. Yeah, they need to learn teenagers especially. I'm thinking more about teenagers because that was my research project was on that age group. But it could you can adapt that. I think it could work for any age group. And anything that what was I going to say? So the one-on-one time and reflecting and writing about their feelings, I think are, I know what I was going to say. It was getting back to the communication, that so many people have a difficulty communicating how they feel. And so I feel that that is one of the most important ways that we can help them, is to communicate that.
And perhaps connecting it with language learning. So how they feel, what kind of emotions they are channeling into their thoughts relating to language learning, which is, you know, it's a vast topic and very much research, but we don't actually bring it into the classroom, do we? So checking in emotionally with, so how are you feeling about your learning today? Or how do you feel in general about your language learning? And, you know, the self-talk and all that, the motivation, internal motivation that connects with that. Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
one of my main objectives when I teach is to make the students feel comfortable, because that was what for me was important for speaking a foreign language. That if you feel comfortable with me, then you're going to be able to talk to me. And we have to talk in the language learning, you know, and language learning, we have to be feel comfortable to speak. So I think anything that helps them get I know we have to keep our boundaries as teachers and we can't be too close, but allowing them to know that you're there and you're willing to listen to them and that their interests or their thoughts matter and that you're there for them.
Once
Yeah.
again,
I'd like to jump in with something just quickly.
sure.
I feel like we always do this bi-directional thing. And one of the things that really drew me to this webinar is my experience in managing other language teachers was that, you know, we could have the most credentialed and experienced and highly professional teachers come. And then when sending them out in a business English environment, if the person was lacking social and emotional intelligence, they would not succeed with the clients, no matter what, no matter how well trained they were and like high level professional, same industry, you know, this profile you look for in business English wasn't going to cut it. Like it came down to emotional intelligence.
Yeah, so well put. It's true.
Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah, thanks for that. Right. Okay. Two more questions that we have. I just want to address them because they're here. Okay. Do you have any ideas for one-to-one activities? So the majority of these were keyed towards groups, but I guess you could pick one or two which can work with one-to-one, right? I mean, I think you do have private students perhaps also.
Yeah, one-to-one. Well, I what I've been doing since the masters, I've been structuring my classes a little bit differently. So at the beginning of the session, I always have some kind of check-in question. So I don't know if this would work for others that are doing one-on-one work, but I think so. A question because to check in to how they're doing, how's their week going, but specific questions. If you look on Google and you go to check-in questions, so social emotional learning, that I found these great cards and I've been using those lately to start. That'd be like a quick check-in at the beginning of the session. And then at the end of the session, more a reflection question based on what they have learned in that session. That's what I would, so I've kind of been changing a little bit how I structure the class because to include introspection, to include reflection questions. I think reflection is one of my key things I'm focusing on right now, is getting them to think about their own processes and their own feelings.
And what's your experience? So are teenagers open to reflect, or does it take a bit of encouragement, a bit of time for them to get into it?
I think it takes time because and consistency. So if you're always doing a check-in question, then they know there's no way out of it. She's going to ask me something about me. So at the first, at the beginning, you get short answers, but if you keep going, then usually, and you put importance on it and time, and you value it, then they start to open up gradually.
Right. Okay. So it takes time, but you have to keep at it and slowly, with a lot of positive, feedback on it.
Reinforcement. Yeah.
And
And so in the classroom with more learners, I think that the journal is the best way the best tool that I've used in a group setting. That if I would also with routine evaluating it, put it in the routine so they know it's going to happen. Every Friday, we're going to dedicate 15 minutes and they're going to write. And I have a question and you're going to write for 15 minutes. And so if at the beginning, maybe they're going to push back, but if you are grading it, you're giving it importance and you're going to evaluate, you're going to give feedback on it. And they're expecting it. I guess that's what I want to say, is that they're expecting it's part of the routine. And so it gets better over time. At first, it takes a while. Some people will just they don't know what to say. They don't know how to reflect. So they'll just put one-liners the same. But if you're evaluating it, they'll say, oh, okay, she's going to give me a score on this, so I'm going to try to do a little bit better. And so as with time and evaluation, it's got the reflections get better.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Two questions here then regarding this. So if you're scoring it, do you score the language of it or the content itself, which I don't know how fair that is, so if someone's reflecting on something which they're finding, troublesome or difficult or challenging, then do you give them a worse score, or how is that? And also, do you ask them to share these? Is there any sharing involved, or it's a private moment for them?
Those are good questions. Yeah. So I have a rubric that I use for them to know that first of all, one of the objectives is to improve depends on what I call it. Maybe it's going to be emotional intelligence, or it's going to have another name like daily reflections. I can call it that, but it's going to have a certain percentage of their grade. And so I would usually grade the content. I would correct the grammar, but I would basically grade on how that is evolving. So a very basic reflection or how developed it is. And I can't remember the points in my rubric that I use, but it's good to establish what is a poor reflection, what is a good reflection. And so they get, modeling, giving them examples, showing them how, giving some examples would help as well.
Right. Okay. We're getting ideas in the chat also. I don't know how many ways to channel, but do read that. Thank you, Rita, for the input here. Yeah. How motivated? I think we addressed this. So one more thing. Do you, since journaling is a big part here, do you give them some kind of guideline, or so, because it might be difficult for them in the beginning? So is there some kind of guideline of, okay, this is like journaling that I would do today for myself? Or so do you give some kind of prompts or things to help them?
Yes. So I would give a question. So usually I have a question. It's a question that guides the journaling or the reflection. It's either a reflection question, or if it's time to write, then it would have some component of that they have to think into themselves. There's so many out there, so you have to think about their age group, what's appropriate. Maybe you want to start out with more simple ones, and then gradually you can get to more difficult questions. I don't know if I answered your question, but
yeah, I think I'm fine with that. Okay, so very slowly we're going to be closing today. If you've got any final comments, lots of thank yous and further comments here going on. But I think I think it's amazing that the majority of you attending stay till the very end. So that in itself, I think, is kind of a reflection of feedback on direct feedback on the importance of this theme and your presentation, obviously. So I think it was a very timely talk.
yes. So I did this master's just after coming out of COVID. So it was also personal situations that it was a moment that I took a break and I was able to develop myself, no, to work on myself, but also I noticed that emotional intelligence is so important since COVID in our in education. So
Yeah.
it was one of the motivating factors. It's very timely.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Carrie, do you want to add anything as we close today?
No, thank you so much. This was lovely. Thank you.
It was all right.
Thank you all for listening. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Carrie
Bye.
and
Yeah.
and Gabriela for letting me practice my presentation skills and
Absolutely.
share my information.
It was really,
Research.
really useful. Thank you very, very much. Thank you everyone for being here.
Thank
Join us
you.
next
Nice to meet you all.
Definitely. See you all in France, hopefully in Paris in a few weeks. So thank you very much for being here and goodbye. I know some of you will be in Paris, so we'll be meeting up and listening to lots and lots of amazing presenters, speakers, workshop leaders. We'll be doing plenaries.